Russia has carried out multiple strikes on the city of Sumy in northeastern Ukraine.
And those two missiles killed 34 people, wounded, at last count, 117.
Reacted with horror to that Russian attack.
I was told they made a mistake.
We cannot bear any more of this.
Russia.
Welcome to Tactical Truths, the go-to series for military news, tactical analysis, and frontline stories that matter. Before we get started, I need your help. 73% of you who watch regularly haven't subscribed yet. If you like what we do, hit that subscribe button, it's free, and helps us make this show better for you every single week. I'm Phil Campion, former UK SAS, and this is Tactical Truths. Right then, you've got Russia claiming they've taken out NATO commanders in a deadly missile strike. You've got Ukraine saying it was civilians, including women and kids, caught in the blast. So who's telling the truth? What really happened in Sumy? We've pulled the footage, the statements, the spin, and now it's time to lay it all out. Stay with us on this one till the end. You'll see the clips, the claims, and then I'll give my take because something about this story just doesn't sit right. Come on, let's have a butchers.
Last night, the Russians fired 62 drones at Ukraine.
62 drones. That's a lot of drones. And don't forget, these drones nowadays, some of them are bigger than others, but 62 in any capacity is a lot.
Ukraine say they shot down 40 of them. But the ones that are really hurting today are the two ballistic missiles.
I mean, if you shot down 40 of them, they still managed to do that much damage with the 20, whatever it was that landed. Honking.
The Russians fired up in the northern part, in the city of Sumy. Sumy is a city, it's only 18 miles from the border, and these two ballistic missiles hit one area. The reason the two missiles are fired is because that gives you a 98% chance of hitting the target that you're interested in.
If it takes two missiles to get a 98% chance of hitting the target, I mean, come on, they must be more accurate than that, please.
One missile following the other. And those two missiles killed 34 people, wounded, at last count, 117, and the devastation was fairly considerable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of damage there, a lot of damage. All jokes aside, that is proper damage.
Факты о том, кто находился на том.
Right, so this is the Russian foreign minister, and he's claiming he's got it all right.
Объекте, который был поражен в Сумах, там была очередная сходка украинских военачальников.
Interesting, he's using the word mob up, not recognising anybody for anything other than mob, mafia.
Со своими западными коллегами, которые то ли под видом наемников, то ли, не знаю, под видом кого.
So there you go, to have actual NATO personnel in the Ukraine and, as he says, their direct control of operations against Russia, although it's common knowledge, they won't like that. They won't like that at all.
Военнослужащие стран НАТО находятся там, все это знают, напрямую руководят. Нью-Йорк Таймс тут недавно объяснила, как с самого начала американцы играли решающую роль в атаках на Россию, и без этой роли американцев
There you go, claiming the Americans are involved as well.
большинство дальнобойных ракет вообще не оторвалось бы от своих мест базирования.
Today, the Russians said that they were targeting a meeting of Ukrainian commanders. That's not consistent with what else we know. They said that they fired two Iskander missiles. We know about
Two Iskander missiles. Look, Russia are obviously going to say that they've targeted military commanders. But let's have a look at what they're now claiming they know.
that. Iskanders are a modern missile, quite a heavy warhead, and they are pretty accurate. So the Iskanders are pretty likely to hit whatever it is that they're aimed at. But also, according to the Ukrainians, one missile hit the university building, the second missile went off above ground, and at least that missile scattered munitions. It was a cluster bomb. And cluster bombs are cluster warheads, cluster munitions.
Cluster, fuck. Jesus, get it out your mouth, man.
Are lots of small bomblets inside a shell. Now, this is not a cluster warhead from an Iskander missile, but this is the sort of thing that you would expect to find. Lots and lots of grenades which throw themselves around and basically injure anybody within a...
The knowledge of some of these journos is absolutely shocking, isn't it? It really is. But I'm not going to dwell on that. Let's try and pick the facts out of this if we can.
50 to 100 metres of the area. What we can see from the devastation in Sumy is that it's entirely consistent with a cluster bomb attack, and cluster bombs are completely and utterly illegal when they're used in a civilian area. Everyone has condemned it. The Ukrainians have said it was cluster bombs. The American ambassador to Kiev has said, yes, it was a Russian cluster bomb. European leaders have said it's cluster bombs. President Zelensky is extremely angry about this. He's made very emotional statements today saying that only scum would do this, to quote his words. And he said to President Trump, come and see this. Come and look before you think about your next move in trying to create a truce or a ceasefire with the Russians. Come and see what they do. The Russians say, Peskov, the spokesman from the Kremlin, said, we only target military sites. That's our policy. It's obviously not true in this case. And Zelensky is constantly urging President Trump to think about this as you try to take forward this demand that you...
And all these demands being made of Trump by Zelensky on this could also be construed as this has granted them a great propaganda opportunity, which I don't like to say that. It sits uncomfortable with me. But it just seems to me like out of what is obviously a devastating, horrible, disgusting, despicable attack, there's people trying to drag some sort of propaganda out of it.
Create some sort of ceasefire. Well, we'll see if President Trump is really listening. All that President Trump has said so far is that he said this, he's told, is a mistake. But it's not clear whether he means it was a mistake for the Russians to try it in the first place or somehow it's a mistake.
That's Trump's way of sitting on the fence, I would imagine.
In targeting. Nobody outside the White House believes this is a mistake in targeting. If it's a mistake that they shouldn't have made in the first place. And we'll see if President Trump is aware of that as the discussions towards a ceasefire go forward.
Very, very difficult one, a very difficult one. The Russians are claiming that they've targeted something legitimately. It doesn't look like that from the evidence portrayed. And if it was cluster munitions, which hasn't been proved conclusively, by the way, OK, then it was a completely unlawful attack. It goes up against all the rules and regulations if there is such a thing. So not a great situation for the Russians, a horrible situation for the Ukrainians. And America sort of like sat there going, well, shall we, shan't we, do we, don't we? Here's what we know, or at least what we're being told. Russia says they hit a command post in Sumy. In fact, an HVT, high-value target, they reckon. They claimed it was packed with Ukrainian and NATO officers. Then you have Ukraine, they're saying the opposite, that it was a residential area, that the colonel was killed, but so were women and children, 34 people dead, including kids. Now, both sides want to win the information war, don't they? Of course they do. One says it was a legitimate military strike, the other calls it a massacre. We know the truth's buried in there somewhere in the rubble, as per usual. But let's be honest here. Russia has lied a few times before. So who's fibbing this time? Or is the Western media? They pick and choose what they amplify. We're left guessing what's real and what's theatre. But here's the question no one's really asking. If there were NATO personnel in that room, what the hell are they doing that close to the front line? And if not, why isn't anyone demanding more proof either way? That's the world now, with the fog of war as thick as ever. And the truth, it's the first thing to get bombed. If you want more of this kind of breakdown, the bits they don't cover properly, then hit that subscribe button now.